Well, we're back on Point Blank, and it's an interesting day, somehow worrisome day. Maybe to our guest is something else. Maybe we are fretting too much and it's not a big deal. Our topic for Point Blank is Joe Ajaero's personal national strike. Should all Nigerians pay for the sins of Imo State? That's what we're talking about. On Tuesday, they've declared they will go on strike nationwide because uh, apparently or purportedly it was brutalized. I was going to say vandalized. It was brutalized somewhere in Imo State while on I don't know if it's on labor matters or on partisan matters. We'll find out from those who know more. And one of them is with us today. He's a veteran journalist, author, lawyer, activist of many years, and director of Center for Media, Law, and Advocacy. We call him Uncle Richie. Good morning, Richard Akinnola.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
It's great. It's great to hear from you after a long
Thank you.
while.
Yes, thank you.
You have been you have been covering judiciary, uh, partly labor and all that for many decades. And have you have you come across this kind of scenario where for personal injuries or personal abuse and all that, one will call for a national strike to like a payback or to get even? Have you seen this kind of thing before?
Well, to the best of my recollection, I don't think I have. But you see, when that incident happened at Imo State, I mean, I was one of the few, I mean, well, I won't say few, some of the people that was quite vociferous and in condemning that attack. I mean, it was horrendous because, as a matter of fact, a friend of mine who is also close to Joe told me that that attack was really, I mean, severe because his hands were tied and they brutalized his face, and even that he will be shocked if Joe doesn't have a spinal cord injury. Having said that,
Wow.
so I condemn, I mean, whether it's Joe or anybody for that matter, I'm against that kind of brutality. I mean, whether it's by police or by government uh, paid thugs or whatever, I totally condemn it. I can't, I can't whether it's Joe or anybody, because I was a victim. I've been victim before under the military, so there's no way I can uh, validate that kind of. Even though,
You don't.
even when I made a even when I made such posts over this issue, so people attacked me and said Joey was playing politics, blah blah blah. I said, look, whether yes, the timing of the protest may be controversial. I mean, because I mean, the pending Imo election, and people may read political meaning to it, particularly since NLC and Joe they are alleged to be pro Labour Party. So one can argue that one that perhaps the timing was wrong. But whether the timing was wrong or right, the attack on Joe Ajaero, I mean, cannot be defended at all. Absolutely not.
No, absolutely.
However,
Yeah.
having said that, having said that, now call a national protest on that assault alone, to me, I think it's like okay, like what Dr. Fashola told me when he was as governor in 2011, when doctors went on strike for 3 months, and I intervened and how to resolve the issue. And he told me, so people say, "Oh, fire them, fire all of them, fire all the doctors," and that he made a one profound statement. He said restraint is a major cardinal instrument as a leader. That yes, you have the power, but you refuse to use that power. So and the same thing. If I made another post a few days ago condemning this calling for national strike. I say while my position on the assault on Joe remains unchanged, but to now stretch it further by now calling for a national strike. I mean, it doesn't make any sense because in the first place, you, I mean, you try to when you use strike at every slightest opportunity. I mean, I mean,
You lose it.
demystify yourself.
Mm.
You demystify
Yeah.
yourself. It's just like
Yeah.
America to use nuclear power at every provocation by
Yes.
Iran,
Yes.
by whatever. Okay, I will use nuclear power. Use nuclear power. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So, and whether elected or not,
Mm.
if they proceed with that, because in the first place, if are the aviation workers, um, uh, do they have any trade disputes with the employers, particularly when, okay, for example, you said strike on Tuesday, then was it 2 days ago, you went to Abuja airport to stop
So yeah,
people from flying. I
please.
mean, no notice, nothing. People have business opportunity, medical appointments, they missed it because
Yeah.
of this insensitivity. It doesn't make any sense. So, and particularly let me just take aviation, let me just take aviation as an example. That is a sector that is struggling,
Yeah.
and now you now further put them under stress. Of course, your members will be they will lay off. They can lay off the members. Well, say well, if the you people decide to shut our operations where we had no trade this with you, they will lay you off. So it doesn't make any sense. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Uncle Richard. Thank you very much. We have
Yeah.
your co-activist here online. I remember you were both very active in the media in years
Mm.
past,
Yeah.
still active in the media and advocacy. And I remember one time you were both on the editorial board of the Masses newspaper.
Yeah.
Of course, you know what I'm talking about. Is right with us. I hope you can hear me. He's a journalist, unionist, activist, and director of International Press Center. I'm my former president, national president of National Association of Nigerian Students. Today is presiding over international media. Welcome to the Vintage Talk Show. Larry Arogundade, good morning.
Good morning,
Laruze.
fine. Richie, Baba Richie, how are you?
Laruze. I do.
Good
Yes,
morning. I hope you
yes,
can hear me
I
very
just
well.
heard it loud and
Chairman, you're
clear.
welcome. Chairman, you're
Loud and
welcome.
clear.
We forgot to also say he was once chairman of Lagos NUJ, and that's why we
Yeah.
call him chairman.
There are many epaulets, many
So many,
titles to link him back,
so many,
but we do not have time.
so
We do not
many
have enough
titles.
time. So many titles. Thank you for joining us. Happy
Fela
start of
said, Fela said Nigerians they like title. Okay, I'm
People have
here.
come
I'm
away.
here. Thank you.
Okay, so I have three questions for both of you, and Uncle Richie has answered one, and I want you to quickly also say this: have you ever experienced a situation where a personal injury to a national labor leader would lead to a nationwide strike? In all your years of editorial duties and reportorial work, have you ever come across such scenario?
Ooh, well, I am trying to, I'm trying to how do they put it? I'm trying to juggle juggle my memory or something, and it's actually quite rare. But we've had protests when labor leaders or leaders of mass movements are attacked in the course of exercising their rights, maybe to freedom of association, freedom of expression. Even under the military, when gatherings were scattered, we just mentioned Gani Fawemi. I remember when they were to have a symposium on alternatives to SAP. Richie will remember at
Yeah.
Gani's chambers, which the military disrupted, and we protested and we condemned that. So really, I don't think there is possibly precedent. But what we've had been protests, rejection, demonstrations when leaders of mass organizations, including trade unions, are maltreated by the state. And like Richie said, in the case of Richard Ajaero, in the case of Joe Ajaero, well, what really happened in Owerri is something that we should first of all, condemn, really, because I've read a lot of comments. I just wrote a little about it on Facebook, and some people were saying you shouldn't have gone there. He's partisan and so on and so forth. So, well, we can debate all that. But what I keep telling people is that we shouldn't, because of disagreement on approach, on methodology, end up endorsing fascist tendencies in our country. So, because it doesn't then mean that the other side should take laws into their own hands. If you felt that what he was doing in the Imo State was illegal, the state government or any aggrieved party could go to court, could even report to the police. The police can ask him to show up, but not that kind of molestation. So we shouldn't endorse that. Now on the question of the strike. Now what I think is because yesterday I was trying to seek clarification from one of the comrades at NLC on the strike itself. My sense was that the action was supposed to be targeted at the Imo State government, because I got to know that flights were cancelled because some of our election observers were supposed to go to Imo State, and then later on, we heard about what was happening in Abuja. So I thought that what they were calling a national action really was actually supposed to be a protest against the Imo State government. So I think probably they didn't get what they were saying right in terms of whether this was a national strike or whatever. For me, because if you look at the past couple of weeks, we've had series of threats of strike action, strike action by NLC. And when I saw that statement, the initial one that there will be a strike, I just felt that we need to advise our colleagues in the labor leadership that strike is not something that you waive, every now and then, because sometimes it's about strategy, it's about approach. Otherwise, you devalue the whole concept of strike itself, and people will begin to wonder, also, especially when in the past these strikes, rarely, take off. So that was my own, thoughts, and I was trying to convey that, to them, that there could be protests, and I think if the protest was targeted at Imo State government, because they are holding them directly responsible, and I was reading somewhere, I don't know if it is true, that the state government has apologized. You can have targeted action because you are holding a particular organization responsible, but even at that, we also have to know that election is coming today, and that should also have informed, even the way and manner you organize that, so that at the end of the day, you also don't create a situation where people are unable to effectively participate or even observe the elections.
To buttress what you are saying, there's like punishing the populace for the action of some unknown gunmen or whatever. Like a TV report claimed that there was blackout in Imo State as a protest against the government. But the people will suffer more because there will be constant 24-hour generator in the State House. Okay, my second question will be to both of you. During the week, Isa Aremu of the Imodu Institute of Labor Studies said that Ajaero coming in from Imo State, I think that's the state of origin, and inserting his companies in a partisan contest has put labor in an awkward situation, leading to a perception deficit from the Nigerian populace. Do you share his fears, Babarichi?
Yeah, I think I do. Because the timing of that protest, to me, I support protest at any time. Because we are products of protest. It's legitimate. However, you have to look at the timing and then the perception of people. Because Joe is from Imo State, In fact, as a matter of fact, somebody told me that when he was being tortured, that he told that when he called him, when he was being tortured, the people said, "Hey, you want to you want to use this protest to beef up your this so I can contest for governorship in 2027." So when there's this
Mm,
perception that yes, it's political, that because NLC is supporting Labour, so I mean, because perception is sometimes stronger than reality. That may not be the
yeah,
reality, but the
yeah.
timing, I mean, is clear. So when it was just barely a week to the state election, and considering the position of NLC supporting a particular party, that perception is, I mean, is there out there that well, it's for political reason that Joe wanted to contest for governorship in 2027. I want to use that as a launching pad, blah 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 blah. So that perception is there. It may not be the reality, so, but that perception
Yeah.
is there. So I think the issue of Imo State, I mean, and being from Imo State itself, I mean, that's the issue of perception that this is partisan. And of course, I mean, when you now, as you rightly said, when they switch off power in Imo State, I mean, the people suffer, and that may even be counterproductive. And they say, hey, why are they punishing us because of hope? And then I mean, and that may even tilt opinion in favor of hope. I mean, against NLC. So one needs to be very careful
Mhm,
when you take certain
mhm.
actions so that I mean, you not be misinterpreted.
Thank you, Larry. In answering that question, I also want you to uh, add this. Add your candid advice to the leadership of the Labour leadership as we await this. We're not sure whether it's going to hold or not going to hold, depending on the response to the court order. What will be your advice based on what is going on as things stand now? With the court order, with the way things are going, with the perception of the people, an election being held today, the disruptions and all that, what would be your advice in line? I mean, while answering the earlier question about Ajaero coming from Imo State and inserting himself into the issue.
Well, first, the question of Ajaero coming from Imo State. I really think that if there are labor issues anywhere that requires the intervention of the Nigerian Labour Congress or that of the president as a person, it shouldn't really matter if that action is taking place in the state where it comes from. As a matter of fact, if workers have grievances there and it does not intervene, that could even expose him to, to allegation of not doing anything because it is a state, or perhaps,
Let
people
me,
would say
please,
maybe,
Larry,
the way.
let me give you let me give a perspective from Issa Remu's point of view. He said
Okay.
usually such state things are done by the council in the states. That the national leadership come like an advisory or like an intervention uh, um, just to how do you call it, mitigate the issue and help both sides. So they will not come in actively on the case of the state council.
Well, you see that itself is debatable, really, because if you have a situation where the state council or the state the workers movement is incapacitated, I
Okay.
think the national can stay. I recall when I was NANS president, the University of Port Harcourt banned the students' union. They expelled the president, and we simply moved to the university and called, a student congress, and we said it was a NANS congress. I remember the vice chancellor there, Professor Kuki, called me and said whether that was legal or legitimate, and I said it was both, because you had actually paralyzed. So I really, I mean, we shouldn't stretch these things too far, because situations may
Okay.
dictate how the labor leadership should intervene. That is one. Now, if there is a court order on the leadership on all these actions, my own expectation would be that labor would comply with that court order. Then I also agree to some extent with Richard that as much as possible we need to look at the situation where we are deciding on particular actions. Now, as to the question of partisanship of labor because of the trade unions support, for the Labour Party, I feel this is something we also need to discuss extensively. In Nigeria, it's always the case that if this support had been the other way, and we have also seen instances where in some states, Lagos and the rest of them, the Labour leadership more or less support, and people don't complain. So when it happens, but it's about the tradition, really, because people don't have that tradition in Nigeria. It's some parts of Europe, really. Trade unions traditionally identify with political movements
Yeah.
so if you go to UK, for example, when you hear, Labour Party, really, automatically supported by the trade unions in the UK. That does not now mean that the trade unions cannot take up, issues that affect their members. It's all part of the right to freedom of association. And like I said, it's a sensitive matter here. Maybe we need to discuss it further. But I'm just saying that it is not unusual for trade unions or particular organizations to support political parties that they feel are closer to them in terms of ideology. In America, the labor movement usually supports the Democratic Party, and that's where they normally put their vote. But it does not take from them the right to address issues that affect workers. So we need to separate that. Otherwise, I think it's looking to me more like blackmail, because the kind of things that the Joe Ajaero leadership are fighting for are things that will benefit all workers, whether you are PDP or APC. New national minimum wage, reduction or fuel hike, and so on. These are issues that are common to everybody. And then people also said, well, the Peter Obi that you supported also said he will remove fuel subsidy. The issue now is that it's not Peter Obi that is president. It will have been a different thing if Peter Obi was president and all these economic policies are being put in place and Labour is not doing anything. But like I said, I feel we need to tread carefully. And people like Ajaero, who had also been Labour leaders, I should also, weigh, their statement, because I think what we're trying to do here first is to say, don't engage in this kind of attacks on labor leaders, even if what they are doing, you believe they are taking a wrong action. I think we need to be unanimous in condemning that. Then we can also critique, the approach, and at the same time, be careful how we do that. So the fact that, yes, labor support, I don't think that should take away from the labor movement the power to take actions on behalf of all workers.
Thank you, Larry. And I also will advise you to listen to all of Ajaero's interview before you criticize him.
All right. Okay. Oh, well. Okay. Thank you. That's necessary. That's important.
Okay. Last word from Abarichi. What would be your advice to labor leaders as we await Tuesday evening?
Well, I think the court's injunction has actually helped the labor to save their face. And I think,
sorry, Richie, what did the injunction say, Richie? What did the injunction say, please? Because I've been traveling.
There is no go ahead. There is no go ahead.
For the report I read, that that to stop NSC and TUC from embarking on any strike on Tuesday. So that I haven't seen the road order. That's based on what I read. But after this program, I'm going to call Falana Council to NLC for us to discuss on this issue. So because if let's assume hypothetically that Labour disregards the court order, the trial will not go beyond 1 day. From our experience. So then you will have lost faith that you disobey court order, not what happened. So I think the court order actually, will save the face of Labour. And Labour, actually, as Larry said, we need to strategize on how to approach issues. Not everything you use the instrument of strike. Protests they can be simultaneous protests the whole 36 states. That's to me that's more effective than go on strike that is not actually effective.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. You've heard the voices of Richard Akinnola, Director, Media Law and Advocacy, and Lanre Arogundade, Director. Both of them they refuse to say Executive Director. Okay, Director of International Press Center. Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing your thoughts with us on this labor matter.
You didn't even add the executive director. Just like we have executive governors.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know what I would say now. You say, why are you doing executive? Because when I checked, you said director. I said, okay, let me leave it at director. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Baba. You have a wonderful weekend. I know you always
thank
engaged.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Where there are issues we can discuss with them that we can't say on here and on approaches. So, but,
well,